Too many men lose themselves in relationships because they think love means sacrifice at any cost. But the truth is, the moment you give up your self-respect, your purpose, and your growth, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. Today, we're going to talk about the things you should never do for a woman if you want to keep her respect, her attraction, and most importantly, your own power. Step 1, self-respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship, and once it is compromised, everything else begins to fall apart. Many men make the mistake of thinking that in order to keep a woman happy, they must bend, adjust, and sacrifice their dignity whenever conflict arises. They believe that as long as she is satisfied, the relationship will remain intact. But in reality, this approach destroys attraction. A woman does not fall for a man because he is willing to give up his strength. She falls for him because he has standards, boundaries, and a sense of self-worth that cannot be shaken by circumstances. When you begin to sacrifice your self-respect, you may win temporary approval, but you lose long-term respect, and that is something you can never afford to trade away. Think about it. Every time you let a woman's moods or demands dictate your actions against your better judgment, you are training her to see you as a man who can be controlled. At first, she might appreciate the extra effort, but over time, she will start questioning your strength. A woman subconsciously wants to know whether the man she is with can stand firm in his identity or whether he will collapse under pressure. If you collapse, she loses trust in you. She may still stay in the relationship for comfort or convenience, but the spark of admiration begins to fade. That admiration only survives when she sees you respecting yourself first, before seeking her validation. Self-respect also shows in how you handle conflict. If she disrespects you, tests your boundaries, or uses manipulation to get her way, the worst thing you can do is overlook it just to avoid an argument. Many men think keeping the peace is the noble choice, but in relationships, peace without respect is meaningless. When you allow her to speak down to you, ignore your needs, or break your standards without consequences, you communicate that her behavior is acceptable. And once disrespect becomes acceptable, it will only grow. What begins as small dismissive comments can turn into open disregard because you have trained her to believe that you will stay no matter how you are treated. Respect works both ways, and if you don't demand it, you will never receive it. There is also a psychological truth about attraction that cannot be ignored. A woman is wired to be drawn to strength, not weakness. Strength is not about arrogance or domination, it is about integrity, the ability to stand tall even when it's uncomfortable. When you abandon self-respect, you abandon the very essence of masculinity that draws her in. You stop being a leader in the relationship and become a follower, someone who adjusts constantly in fear of losing her. But ironically, that fear and that surrender of dignity are what push her away faster than anything else. She might say she wants a man who will do anything for her, but deep down, she wants a man who will not lose himself in the process. When you value your self-respect, you also create a natural balance in the relationship. You treat her with love, care, and attention, but you do not lower your standards in order to keep her. You are willing to walk away if respect is not mutual, and that willingness is what makes you powerful. The man who is afraid to lose her becomes a prisoner in his own relationship, but the man who knows his worth and refuses to accept disrespect holds all the power. Women are far more likely to remain loyal and committed to a man who holds himself to high standards because it reassures them that they are with someone strong enough to protect not only himself, but also the relationship. In the end, the truth is simple. A man who sacrifices self-respect for a woman ends up losing both. He loses the dignity that makes him attractive in the first place, and he eventually loses her admiration. A woman might stay out of habit, but her love, passion, and respect will be gone. The more you stand firm in your self-respect, the more you give her a reason to see you as the kind of man worth following, worth loving, and worth respecting in return. Step 2, never make her the center of your world. One of the most common mistakes men make in relationships is putting a woman at the center of their entire existence. At first glance, it may seem romantic to give her all your attention, to revolve your daily life around her moods, desires, and needs. But in reality, it slowly kills attraction. A woman does not truly want to be the only focus of a man's world. She wants to be a part of a man's world that is already rich, fulfilling, and purposeful on its own. When you place her at the center, you abandon your own mission, your own identity, and your own drive. Instead of being the man she was drawn to in the first place, you become dependent, predictable, and too available, which takes away the sense of mystery and challenge that women naturally crave. When a woman first meets a man, she is usually attracted to the way he carries himself, his ambition, his sense of direction, and the life he has built independently of her. These qualities are what spark her interest and make her want to be a part of his story. But the moment you start putting her on a pedestal and rearranging your entire life around her, you start losing those very qualities. She begins to notice that your sense of purpose is no longer leading your actions. Instead, you are waiting for her approval, her time, or her validation before you do anything. The man who once stood tall and confident becomes someone who exists only to please her. And even though she might enjoy the attention in the beginning, deep down it begins to suffocate her attraction because it strips away the polarity that keeps passion alive. Making her the center of your world also creates a dangerous imbalance in the relationship. Love thrives in balance, where both partners bring energy, effort, and value into the connection. But when you place her above everything else, you are essentially saying that she is the prize while you are just the pursuer who must work endlessly to keep her. This dynamic makes you lose your frame as a man and forces her into a role she does not actually want. Women respect men who value themselves first, who continue pursuing their goals and living their lives with direction regardless of who is beside them. When you neglect your friendships, passions, career, and growth just to give her all of your attention, you are showing her that without her, you are empty. And nothing dries up a woman's attraction faster than realizing a man's identity completely depends on her. Another hidden danger of making her your world is the pressure it puts on her. No woman wants to carry the weight of being your only source of happiness and fulfillment. At first, she may feel special, but over time, she will start to feel trapped, as though she cannot breathe without disappointing you. She will sense that you have no hobbies, no purpose, no sense of self outside of her, and that creates emotional suffocation. Instead of feeling inspired to love you more, she will feel the urge to pull away. Women want to join a man on his journey, not be the journey itself. They want to feel like they are choosing to be a part of something bigger than themselves, not that they are responsible for giving a man his entire sense of meaning. A strong man understands that love should be an addition to his life, not the center of it. He has goals, dreams, and a mission that drive him. And when a woman sees that, she feels secure knowing she is with someone who cannot be shaken by dependency. He can love her deeply and passionately, but he never loses himself in the process. That balance is what creates long-term respect and admiration. If you make her the center of your world, you eventually push her away because you stop being the man she fell for. But when you make your purpose the center and you invite her to share in it, you not only keep her respect, you also create a relationship where attraction never fades. Step 3, never over-validate or chase constantly. Validation in small, meaningful doses can strengthen a relationship, but when it becomes excessive, it has the opposite effect. Many men make the mistake of thinking that if they constantly compliment a woman, shower her with attention, and chase her endlessly, it will make her feel loved and secure. In reality, it does the exact opposite. Over-validation creates an imbalance where your value begins to look lower than hers, and it makes your attention feel cheap. A woman does not respect what comes too easily or too abundantly. She values attention that is rare, intentional, and genuine, not the kind that is thrown at her every moment of the day. When you are always chasing, always praising, and always reassuring, you strip away the sense of challenge that naturally fuels attraction. Attraction is not built on predictability. When a woman knows that no matter what she does, you will always be there, always calling, always complimenting, and always pursuing, she begins to feel less desire. The human mind is wired to crave what is earned, not what is freely given without effort. That is why people often value things they had to work for more than the things handed to them without struggle. The same principle applies to relationships. If you over-validate, you take away the satisfaction she feels when she has to win your attention. It's the difference between a man who praises every little thing she does and the man who saves his words for moments when he truly means them. The first comes across as needy and desperate, while the second creates depth and meaning. Constant chasing also communicates that you are prioritizing her above everything else in your life. Instead of showing that you have purpose, ambition, and a world of your own, you are showing her that your only mission is to keep her happy. At first, she may enjoy the thrill of being pursued, but if the chasing never stops, it becomes suffocating. She no longer feels like she has the space to desire you because you are already flooding her with attention at every turn. Desire cannot grow in an environment where there is no room to miss you. A woman must have the chance to feel your absence, to crave your presence, and to earn your validation. Without that, your constant pursuit starts to feel more like pressure than passion. Another problem with over-validation is that it removes the polarity that keeps relationships exciting. Women are naturally drawn to men who carry a sense of self-worth and who do not seek approval at every moment. When you constantly validate, you are signaling that you need her recognition in order to feel complete. That energy is weak and ungrounded, and it slowly erodes the respect she has for you. Women want a man they can look up to, someone who knows his own value without needing to be reminded by her. When you validate in moderation, you send the message that your words carry weight because they come from a place of strength and certainty, not from a place of insecurity. It's important to understand that not chasing constantly does not mean ignoring her or being cold. It means creating a healthy balance where your attention has meaning. You can express love, you can give compliments, you can pursue her, but it should not be your entire identity. When you validate selectively and authentically, she feels the difference, and your words hold power. When you create space between moments of pursuit, she has the chance to desire you in return. That dynamic of give and take is what keeps attraction alive. Over-validation and endless chasing may feel safe in the moment, but in the long run, it drains the relationship of excitement, respect, and admiration. Step 4, never tolerate disrespect or bad behavior. Respect is the foundation of every meaningful connection, and once it is broken, the relationship begins to crumble no matter how much love or attraction may have existed in the beginning. A mistake many men make is tolerating small acts of disrespect or dismissing bad behavior in the hope that it will stop on its own. They convince themselves that it is not worth the argument or that keeping quiet will keep the peace. But silence in the face of disrespect is not peace, it is submission. When you allow disrespect to pass without consequence, you communicate that it is acceptable, and once that line is crossed, it rarely stops there. What begins as small, sarcastic remarks, subtle put-downs, or disregard for your words can quickly grow into patterns of manipulation, neglect, or even outright contempt, all because you trained her to believe you will accept it. A woman cannot truly love or admire a man she does not respect. When she realizes she can speak to you however she wants, act however she wants, and cross your boundaries without any reaction from you, she loses faith in your strength. Respect is not about demanding obedience or trying to dominate her. It is about holding yourself to a standard where you will not allow anyone, including the woman you love, to treat you in a way that lowers your dignity. This does not mean fighting over every small disagreement, but it does mean addressing behavior that crosses the line immediately and directly. A man who ignores disrespect for the sake of comfort only sets himself up for long-term discomfort because attraction cannot survive where respect does not exist. Disrespect can take many forms, and often it does not appear in obvious ways at first. It could be her ignoring your efforts, speaking to you with condescension, flirting openly with others in your presence, or dismissing your opinions as if they carry no weight. Each time you overlook these actions, you chip away at your own value in her eyes. A woman subconsciously tests boundaries to see whether the man she is with can lead and stand firm, and when you fail to draw a line, she concludes that you cannot. The result is not closeness, but distance, because she no longer sees you as the man she can rely on to protect his dignity and, by extension, the relationship. The truth is, when you do not tolerate disrespect, you are not only protecting yourself, but also creating the conditions for a healthier connection. Women respect men who have standards and who are not afraid to enforce them. When you calmly but firmly address behavior that is unacceptable, you send a clear message that you value yourself and that you expect the same from her. This does not push her away. In fact, it often brings her closer because it reassures her that you are strong enough to lead with integrity. A woman may not always admit it, but she feels more secure with a man who will not compromise his self-respect to keep her happy. Allowing bad behavior also creates a cycle where resentment builds silently inside you. You may think you are avoiding conflict, but deep down you are storing frustration every time she crosses a line without consequence. Over time, that frustration turns into bitterness, and by the time you finally react, it may come out explosively because of all the moments you ignored in the past. By not setting boundaries early, you allow the problem to grow until it becomes much harder to resolve. On the other hand, addressing issues as they arise prevents small problems from turning into major cracks in the relationship. A man who values himself understands that it is better to lose someone than to lose his respect. If a woman cannot treat you with the basic respect you deserve, then no amount of love or affection can make the relationship worthwhile. Tolerating disrespect is not love, it is self-betrayal. The standard you set for how you are treated becomes the standard she follows. And if you accept less than respect, you will get less than love. Step 5, never lose your masculine frame. Masculine frame is not about acting tough or pretending to be someone you are not. It is about holding steady in who you are regardless of circumstances. It is the inner strength that keeps you calm when emotions run high, the confidence to stay grounded when challenges appear, and the discipline to live by your values even when it is not convenient. Many men lose their frame in relationships because they feel pressure to please, to avoid conflict, or to constantly adjust themselves just to keep a woman happy. In doing so, they trade their leadership for approval, but the moment you abandon your masculine frame, you stop being the man she was drawn to in the first place. Attraction is built on polarity, and when that polarity disappears, so does her admiration. A woman is not looking for perfection, but she is always observing whether you can remain steady when situations get tense. If every time she tests you with her emotions, you collapse, argue back in desperation, or try to over-explain yourself, she loses faith in your strength. Losing your frame makes you reactive instead of proactive, emotional instead of centered. She may not consciously think of it in these terms, but on a deeper level, she is wired to look for stability in a man. When you hold your frame, you provide her with the security that comes from knowing you will not be easily shaken. When you lose it, you make her feel as if she must lead the relationship herself, and that reversal of roles is what destroys attraction over time. Masculine frame also shows in how you handle disagreements. Many men believe that avoiding conflict or quickly giving in is the best way to keep harmony, but that is not leadership, it is submission. A woman respects a man who can listen, acknowledge her feelings, and still stand firm in his perspective without folding. It does not mean being rigid or refusing to compromise. It means never abandoning your values or self-respect for the sake of temporary peace. A man who constantly bends to avoid her frustration eventually teaches her that she cannot rely on his strength. The relationship then becomes unstable because she cannot feel secure in someone who does not trust himself enough to stand his ground. Another way men lose their frame is by allowing emotions like jealousy, insecurity, or neediness to take control of their actions. Instead of moving with calm certainty, they become reactive, constantly checking her phone, questioning her loyalty, or over-explaining their worth. This type of behavior erodes respect because it communicates weakness. A man in his frame does not need to chase reassurance because he already knows his value. He understands that if she is with him, it is by choice, and if she chooses to leave, it does not define his worth. That inner stability makes him more attractive because it shows he is not controlled by fear or insecurity. Maintaining your masculine frame is also about having a mission bigger than the relationship. Women are naturally drawn to men with purpose, men who are building, growing, and striving towards something meaningful. When you lose yourself in the relationship and make her the only focus of your identity, you lose your frame. But when you continue to pursue your goals, invest in your growth, and stay disciplined in your vision, she respects you more because she knows she is with a man who leads himself first. Your frame becomes the structure that holds the relationship together because it shows her that no matter what happens, you remain grounded in who you are. The truth is that losing your masculine frame is one of the quickest ways to lose her respect and attraction. Women may not always articulate it, but they feel it deeply when a man shifts from being grounded and confident to being dependent and reactive. Holding your frame does not mean being controlling or cold. It means being steady, unshaken, and clear in your direction. When you remain in that state, you create the polarity that keeps love alive because she feels safe, inspired, and drawn to a man who knows exactly who he is and refuses to lose himself for anyone. Step 6, never neglect your own growth. One of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is putting their personal growth on hold once they feel secure with a woman. In the beginning, many men work hard on themselves, building their career, developing their confidence, working on their body, and chasing their goals. This effort and drive is often what makes them attractive in the first place. But after they win her interest, some men slow down, get comfortable, and stop pushing themselves forward. They think the relationship is the finish line, when in reality, it is just another chapter of their journey. The moment you stop growing, you begin to lose the very qualities that made her admire you. Growth is not optional for a man. It is a responsibility, because the moment you neglect it, you send a message that you are satisfied with stagnation, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who has no vision beyond the present moment. Growth is not just about money or career, although those are important. It is about expanding yourself in every area: physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. A man who continues to learn, challenge himself, and step outside his comfort zone radiates energy that inspires the people around him. A woman feels secure and alive with a man who is constantly evolving because she knows he will not fall into complacency. But when you neglect growth, when you stop striving for more, you slowly become predictable and uninspiring. She may still care for you, but the spark of admiration begins to fade because deep down, women are not drawn to men who stay the same. They are drawn to men who are becoming more over time. Neglecting growth also creates dependency in a relationship. If you are not pursuing your own goals, you unconsciously begin relying on her for your sense of fulfillment. Instead of being a man who has his own mission, you become a man who looks to her for purpose. That dynamic quickly drains attraction because it reverses the natural polarity of the relationship. A woman wants to walk beside a man who is leading himself somewhere, not a man who expects her to carry the weight of his direction. When you keep growing, you maintain your independence and your strength, which allows her to feel safe leaning on you. When you stop growing, you shift that weight onto her, and that is when respect begins to disappear. There is also a psychological truth about growth. When you stop moving forward, you actually start moving backward. Life does not remain static. If you are not progressing in your career, your health, your mindset, or your skills, you are declining in those areas. Over time, this decline becomes visible not only to you, but also to her. She notices that your ambition has dimmed, your energy has lowered, and your fire has gone out. That change does not inspire loyalty, it creates distance. A woman wants to feel proud of the man she is with, to see him shine and expand in life. When you show that you are committed to growth no matter what, you give her a reason to stay invested because she knows she is with someone who refuses to settle for mediocrity. Continuing to grow also protects you from one of the most common traps in relationships, taking her for granted. When you focus on your own evolution, you naturally bring new energy into the relationship. You become a source of excitement because you are constantly improving, learning, and becoming more interesting. This keeps her engaged because she feels like she is with a man who is going places, and she gets to be part of that journey. On the other hand, if you let yourself go, stop chasing your dreams, and neglect your personal development, the relationship becomes routine and dull. She no longer feels the same excitement because the man she once admired is no longer pushing himself to grow. A man who never neglects his own growth not only keeps his woman's respect, but also keeps his own self-respect. He knows that his value does not come from the relationship alone, but from the life he builds outside of it. His confidence, his purpose, and his drive come from within, and that energy is what keeps him magnetic. Growth is not something you do to impress her. It is something you do because it is your duty as a man to reach your highest potential. When you commit to that path, you will never have to fear losing attraction because you will always be becoming more than you were yesterday. Gentlemen, remember this. Relationships are not about losing yourself to keep someone else. They are about standing firm in your value, holding your boundaries, and never letting go of the qualities that make you a man worth respecting. When you protect your self-respect, when you refuse to put her above your purpose, when you stop chasing desperately and start leading with strength, you create the kind of energy that a woman cannot ignore. Never tolerate disrespect, never abandon your frame, and never stop growing because the moment you do, you stop being the man she fell for. A woman will only love and admire you when you love and admire yourself first. So walk out of here today knowing this. You don't have to do everything for a woman. You only have to do one thing. Stay true to yourself, and everything else will follow.